Good afternoon to all. Okay, welcome to the class. Uh, in the last class, we were discussing about the we were about to start the next topic. Right? I think we done with the quality attributes and the application and domain specific embedded systems, considering washing machine and automotive system as an example. In the automotive system, you understood like what you mean by electronic control unit and different types of automotive communication buses like controller area network, local interconnect network, most media oriented system transport. That's what we call it as most. Okay, and we will be using these communication buses based upon the applications or based upon the data speed that we want to transfer the data. And followed by we also understood the different key players of automotive embedded market, like who all the companies or who are the major players in automotive system, and we understood like there are a few companies working with respect to automotive system or automotive embedded market, maybe Xilinx or maybe NXP Semiconductors or Renaissance or Infineon. So majorly Infineon and Renaissance are into the production of high-end microcontrollers, which are required for automotive systems in improving or in implementing ADAS architecture, like advanced driver assistance system. Again, see, it is not sufficient like if I have only hardware. So again, I need a software platforms tools. So under which we understood like a different software tools, that is maybe a MathWorks, MATLAB from the MathWorks, Keel software. Microsoft is also having a powerful operating system like WinCE version, which is called as real-time operating system platform for automotive application. Uh, at the final, we understood the solution providers like Bosch Automotive System, Denso Automotive System, which is a original equipment manufacturer, or in general, like in simple, we call it as OEM. And Delphi, Infosys Technologies are different solution providers of this for automotive system. Now, today in this class, we will start with a new topic, that is on hardware software code design. So, what do you mean by hardware software code design? And this is hardware software code design and programming model. So, once again, chapter 7 from your Shibu textbook. The mainly we will discuss, or the main objective of this particular chapter is to understand the code design approach for embedded hardware and as well as firmware development. Some firmware, as of now, you just understand it is also a software or set of instructions, we call it as. And we will try to discuss the different computation models used in the embedded system design, and we will try to understand what you mean by computational model. Probably this chapter will help you like how to take the approach whenever you want to start with a project, right? You already now in the very soon days, like you will be into the final year, once again you want to carry out the major project as such. If you are into that embedded model or any of the project, I better you adapt this computation model technique to develop your projects. Okay, now Why hardware software co-design? What do you mean by co-design? Co-design, right? We call it as like co-author, co-guide, right? So which means that together, right? So we say that co-author means the another author togetherly, or two authors together wrote a book, right? Co-guide. So along with the guide, there is one more guide. So we call him as a co-guide. All right. So it is nothing but togetherness, cooperation, right? So which is nothing but together. So which means we are trying to develop a hardware by or taking hardware as well as software into the consideration simultaneously. So you might asking me a question like, sir, don't we do it right now? Yes, definitely we use that technique, but earlier days what happens was, so in the traditional embedded system development, the hardware software partitioning is done at much earlier stages, where the hardware was developed separately and software was developed separately. It is as good as right now the computer science students are taking subjects differently and electronics students are learning separately. We are considering these two branches as a two parallel branches, but it is not so. At one point, both the computer science students and electronics students must go hand in hand to develop or to come up with a one application as a real-time applications, right? So because see, whenever I develop a hardware, if a algorithm does not support my hardware is just a empty box. Same thing is true with the algorithm developer. Whatever the algorithm that is developed, or the programming model that is developed by the CS or computer science background students or engineers, if that algorithm does not fit into the hardware, once again it's also a gone case. Like in the traditional embedded system development approach, this was the major hurdle where there was a less interaction between two teams, which is the hardware team and a software team. Later on, the same time, the market, so hardware was developed separately. There was a separate software used to develop. When they tried to map one to one hardware and software, there was a huge, once again we need to go back and tracing back the errors, and maybe sometimes the error might be due to the hardware issues, or sometimes maybe the error due to the software issues. So what we do, ultimately, when the product coming to the market, it used to take a lot of time. So due to the increase in competition, the time to market could not able to match. So hence, what the engineers or what the software architects, we call the software architects. So what they did, so finally the solution came up with a solution like, we'll go with a behavioral description of hardware requirement and the definition of the software required for the hardware, and then we use computational models. We will study these points. Throughout the chapter, we study these points mainly. How we can able to go hand in hand. How I can make an interaction with a software team as well as uh, the hardware team. So that's what the entire chapter talks about. And here we come up with some models like computation models like data flow graphs and controlled data flow graphs and sequential designs as such. So these are the some we can consider to be a models. Before I implement any of the algorithm, I should develop the model, and then we think of whether it possible to implementable in a processor architecture, or whether it is going to be implementable in a FPGA architectures. So there later on they will try to suit what hardware is suitable for a developed computation model. So that's where we call it as behavioral description of a hardware requirement and the definition of the software required for the hardware. So now this is very important. Like, what are the issues are challenges in hardware software co-design. The which means that the idea of this topic here is the hardware software co-design is a something like a problem statement for me right now. Okay, it's a problem statement. Now we need to solve this problem statement for a real time, right? So now whenever we want to solve any of the problem statement, like we need to understand some of the issues that is present in the particular project. So similarly, right now you assume that there is a team of 4 members. Now right now you are trying to develop a project wherein you are trying to make a home automation, and you divides amongst yourself, like 2 people for purchasing the hardware and 2 people for writing the algorithms. Now whatever the hardware sensors are required, there is a one hardware team, and there is another software team who writes the algorithm. Now soft the if those two students, or if those two teams don't interact and they themselves think on their own and assume that the hardware team assume that the software team developed a program or the skills by using a Arduino programming. Now yeah, this part is not known to hardware team, and they brought the hardware like 8051 microcontroller, or they may bring the Raspberry Pi hardware. Now, will it sustain my project, or will it be a solution for my project? Definitely not, because the algorithm written by the software people is totally different, which does not fit into my hardware, the hardware that I bought, right? So that's what we called as there should be a understanding, or there must be a the co-design methodology in order to develop any of the projects, especially in case of embedded software development. When we call that embedded, so embedded is, it's not a alone hardware, it is not a alone software, it is both hardware plus software is equal to one real-time hardware. Okay, so in this case, what are the issues that may occur, and what are the issues that I should able to keep in my mind before I start the project? The first thing is selection of the model. Oh, what do you mean by model? Right? It's something like related to a one capturing or describing system, we call it as. Say for example, the solar system model, we used to develop these kinds of models in our 7th standard or 8th standard days, where we try to make use of all these small plastic ball and bigger one plastic ball, and we try to make a model which look like a solar system, right? Project, right? The same thing is true if I want to understand the in your with respect to front view and top view in your first year graphics subject, so CAD subject, we have some models to show you, where you can able to easily understand that how to visualize the top view, how to visualize the side view, right? So these are the model that I should able to be prepared first. Okay, I need to select the model, and in the same case, in such cases how we have a triangular shaped model and hexagon shaped model for graphic subject, here also we try to have some models in even in embedded systems, like we have FSM model, and we have a DFG model, and so on, etc. We'll try to discuss very soon in a forthcoming classes. But these are the different models. Now the second one is selecting the architecture. That's very important, right? So until and unless we don't select the architecture, probably it is not easy to implement that particular model onto the hardware. So the main understanding here is the hardware architecture, whether the hardware architecture is the controller architecture or data path architecture, or what do you mean by controller architecture? Again, the controller architecture is nothing but the architecture that implements my finite state machine. So you know that in your digital design, if you want to design a counter, or any sequence counter, or if you want to design a memory, probably you use finite state machines, right? So now if you want to implement it in the on the hardware, probably I will go for using a controller architecture to implement such finite state machines, right? Now the another very important point here, so probably you might have heard these two words very familiarly in your Verilog subject, right? So another very important point here is the data path architecture. See, the usually we have a data flow model, DFG graph we call touch. We use the, if this is a DFG, and this DFG can be implemented very easily in a data path architecture. What do you mean by DFG? So I can say that y is equal to A XOR B. What is this? So I know that from the Boolean equation, or some based on my truth table analysis, I got to know that if I want to develop this architecture, then this is how my hardware looks like, right? So that's where, say for example, I want to make use of a switch, two switch, one switch at one end and of the room, and another switch at the another end of the room. So if I turn on, then the light should on. So yeah, I think you might able to understand this very clearly now. And if I want to develop such model, then probably I will go for using a data path approach, and I'll just look into what type of design is possible from the Boolean equation. Now I want to implement this architecture, then I call this as a data flow graph or data flow implementation, wherein I can able to go for data path architecture to implement the same equation. Now finite state data path, which is going to be used when both I want to implement FSM as well as data path. This is nothing but the controller path plus the data path architecture. If you want to implement, then probably this is best suited architecture that we can use is finite state machine data path, right? Okay, these are all with corresponding to, with respect to somewhere else, little more of related to your hardware perspective, which is nothing but selection of hardware with respect to, maybe you can implement this control architecture or data path architecture or FSM using finite state machines using FPGAs, right? So till here I can mark one demarcation line. All these concepts can be well implemented using a hardware or architecture like FPGA architectures. Now again, there are another few set of hardwares. I can call this as a little bit, not exactly, but somewhere else you can able to put a demarcation line, and you can able to little bit you can give a differentiation here. That's what I'm trying to say. And the CISC architecture and the RISC architecture. So where these architectures can be related? These architecture can be related to purely for the processor architectures, right? So your processor architectures may be RISC architecture, or it may be CISC architecture. And well, we already discussed the difference between these two architectures, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of CISC and RISC architecture in our previous chapter. And we also gone through the differences, where CISC architectures provides me a complex set of instructions, wherein RISC is much reduced instructions, where the two instructions that used to be done in CISC, that can be covered in only single instruction in RISC architectures. This kind of advantage we have seen in RISC architectures. And once again, it depends on what type of architecture is required, because when it comes to the cost effectiveness, the CISC is more cheaper than compared to RISC hardware. So it ultimately what type of application that you want to develop, and probably if it is not time deterministic, if it is not time deterministic, and if it is not a critical executable projects, probably it is where you can shift to CISC architectures, like just like a small scale embedded system industry, wherein we produce a toy manufacturing example we have considered in a previous class. or else if I want to develop or an airbag system for an automotive system, probably CISC architecture is not well suited, and we shift to RISC architecture, and this is what we have understood from basic differences. Another processor architecture, to be more specific, that is VLIW. So the long form for this VLIW is very long instruction word. I repeat, it is very long instruction word architecture. Now this architecture consists of multiple functional units. What do you mean by multiple functional units? So assume that here is a VLIW architecture. This particular architecture consists of multiple functional units. What do you mean by functional units in our architecture? Like you may be having more than one ALU in your hardware, in your processors. So probably two ALUs and two multiplier hardwares, right? Two adders that may be present in this hardware's processor architecture. So that's where we call it as very long instruction word. And obviously when I say that long instruction, the capability of handling of register size is also, or it must be bigger. Probably 64-bit of instruction is to be handled. Probably in such cases I need a minimum of 64-bit register. The size of a register should be a 64. So hence even you can assume, or you can easily understand that when you go for selecting the VLIW architecture, the register size is bigger, and it consists of multiple functional units like ALU, and multiple multipliers and multiple adder circuits may be present in that such kind of processor. Now you think that what type of applications can be implemented in these types of processor architectures? So that depends once again, right? So wherever whenever you want to develop a supercomputer, probably you go with usually a VLIW architecture processors. Now the latest trending architecture, I can call it as, that is parallel processing architecture, where the instructions are executed in parallel. So already we know that right now we have seen like sequential executions in C programming, but it is possible to execute my C program in a parallel way, and that's where in parallel processing architecture, the parallel processing architecture will be having a multiple cores, multi-core, we call it as a multi-core architecture. So even you have a dual core or quad core or octa core. So it is nothing but a multiple cores are present in your processors, in your architecture, and each core will be able to handle the different task, right, simultaneously, that too. So once again, in implementing this is nothing but to implement an algorithm concurrently. Concurrent means what? The meaning like in parallelly, almost the single instruct. Again, if we take a few examples in this, so we have another architecture called SIMD architecture, where this is called single instructions which can act on multiple data, where there will be one instruction but they can able to handle a multiple data. And another one is multiple instructions, multiple data. There will be multiple instructions to work on multiple data. So these are the different architectures. The first one is selecting the model in case of embedded systems. The second important point is selecting the architecture. The architecture may be controller architecture, data path architecture, FSM architecture, CISC or RISC architecture, VLIW architecture, or parallel processing architecture. Okay, now these 2 points are clear. Okay, now once your model is ready, once your architecture is ready, next what is required? What is required? There is a model, there is an architecture. Now, is it possible without writing any language or without any C programming description or without any HDL description, is it possible to implement that particular model? Definitely not. So hence the third important issue that what we have to consider in hardware software co-design is selecting the language. The most important part of the hardware software co-design, so that is the language captures the select model. So whichever the model that you have select, and that model can be captured, which is nothing but it can be implemented by using a suitable language, maybe a C programming or maybe C++ programming, or even the higher you can call it as object oriented programming like Java, or even it can be developed another by using another language called hardware descriptive language, which is called maybe a VHDL or Verilog or System C. So these are the different or variety of models, capturing the models by using a suitable language, right? So this is the third important issue or challenge in selecting that comes under hardware software co-design. The last one is partitioning the system requirement into software and hardware. Now the actual point arises. Now after undergoing all these points, now you decide which part to be designed by the hardware and which part you should go for the decision making of whether this part which part of your project is to be implemented on hardware and which part of the system is to be implemented using a software, or which part can be implementable in FPGA and if which part can be implementable in a processor architecture by writing a C programming. So this is how you are supposed to select the problem statement and come to the conclusion. Now that is very easy. Here a person from hardware will be knowing what in and out may not be the complete finer aspects of the technical perspective, but definitely he will be knowing okay, the model is going to have a C programming, hence I cannot purchase a Arduino board or as such. So definitely he go for purchasing somewhere else microcontrollers, ARM processor as such. So definitely the software person will be knowing that okay, we have selected the CISC architecture or RISC architecture kind of architecture, or definitely I mean to write a C programming or a C++ programming, because those are the algorithms or the software program that supports these kinds of hardware. So that's how they come to the conclusion, and they start working independently in their areas. So this is how we are going to partition the system requirements based on the hardware and software. Now moving on to the next, the computation models. That's where many from the beginning of this class I was talking about computation model in the embedded system design. Now we will try to understand what is this computation model with a good example. And definitely guys, these are the very interesting part where you can understand in a single go. And this is where that's what I told you, if don't study with respect to embedded system, try to study in a broader perspective, and you can able to make sure that in the same way you can also develop your own projects, right? Maybe a mini project or major projects. Now coming to first point here, data flow graph. Many times we asked you to in the PPTs, we asked you to come up with a implementation part or maybe a flow chart or algorithm, right? So that's where you can use these models to explain your project as a stating under the heading of flow chart with a description using DFG graph or state machine model as such. Okay, now the different computational models in embedded systems are: one is a data flow graph model, DFG model; another one is state machine model, concurrent process model, sequential process model, object oriented model, and there are many other, but we restrict for these four or five types of computation models in the embedded systems. Now, coming to the first DF model, that is data flow graph model, or in simple DFG model. Embedded applications which are computationally intensive, so which means more number of computations, so which are where we can find in implementing the DSP applications. Say for example, you are trying to see the obstacle that is present in the road or a highway road, which means that definitely there must be a, you are trying to do a image processing, right? So which means the computationally intensive algorithms has to be run on those kind of processor, and definitely it is a part of embedded application. So hence embedded applications which are computationally intensive and data driven, so in such cases I go for using DFG model. Alright, let me assume that how DFG model is implemented. So let me assume that there is a simple computational model where I want to perform addition of two inputs A plus B, and whatever the output that I get, I'll try to subtract with another third input C. And this is my simple, very simple. And now we will try to understand how computational graph or data flow graph can be implemented for this. Now this is where we use one circle and arrow marks, based upon which we try to see that input for the model, input of as a data, and output from the model. So this is A, B, C are the three inputs in my system right now, and I perform first A and B as addition. So I that will get into a adder block, and I get output X from this. So once again, the X is, the C is subtracted from X. Once again, the output is Y. So this is, we call this and this as a data flow node. It is called as data flow node. Okay, data flow node. Now A and B are inputs, so which means that this arrow mark towards the circle, in inner side of the arrow mark, this represents the input, and the circle that represents the arrow from the outwards the circle, it represents the output. What about the circle? It is representing data flow node, which is nothing but an operation that what we perform, maybe addition or maybe a subtraction, or any logical operation as such. So this is the DFG. Now once you're done with this, now you think, okay, is it okay if I develop in, is it not possible to develop using a FSM chart? Yes, definitely it is possible, because you can prepare, or it is possible to using FPGA here. You can go for implementing this on a FPGA, where you need to develop a one hardware circuit from the perspective of hardware, if I speak, and one more subtractor you need to perform, and think how many bits it is. A is how many bit, B is how many bit, then accordingly you bit, if it is a 4 bit, then you require a 4 bit adder. If it is a 8 bit, if you require a 8 bit adder as such. So you need to go for developing a 8 bit adders or a 4 bit adder based upon your requirement. And yes, once you develop the adder, the same adder is responsible for carrying out the subtractor also, because again subtraction is carried out in adder hardware itself by computing 2's complement, right? So which means that if you want to perform this, one single hardware, that is adder, is sufficient. So this is already you learnt it in your the Boolean algebra, or the third semester logic design. Now what we do, okay, now so you got to know that, yeah, I can implement using FPGA anta gottayitu ivaga. So now what is next process? Okay, if I want to implement this in a FPGA, then What type of language is required? Yes, obviously either you go for Verilog implementation or the next, what is that, VHDL implementation, right? HDL language you are supposed to select, and based upon that, so okay, now first thing is you need to create the data path for this, which is nothing but a adder circuit, right? Adder circuit. For the adder circuit, describe this adder circuit using the HDL. Now it is very easy for the implementation of such model using Verilog implementation, and later on that can be downloaded onto the FPGA. But the problem is, now here the FPGA is a standalone hardware, does not consist of any software as such. Now is it, and FPGA implementation is quite costlier when compared to the processor architecture. So next, the what is the second way of implementation is very easy. You just write a C programming and download it onto the hardware like ARM processor or even 8051, right? How much time is required for this implementation using C programming? Hardly 10 to 20 minutes of programming is sufficient for you guys to implement this, and the same thing is not true with respect to the other way around for using a Verilog. Now this is what the intensive methodology that we try to adapt in developing hardware model. Okay, now if now it is very clear, guys. So now how you, I think you got to know how hardware software co-design is going to be able to do it. Now if architecture person, now you can take out if you want to develop, you call a one FPGA expert and ask him to write a Verilog code, and he will be writing the things, or else you can call a C programming expert and ask him to give this model and ask him to develop this as per the hardware. Selecting the architecture, you want to implement this architecture on a CISC based architecture or RISC based architecture, and that you decide and ask him to write the programs or the instructions accordingly. That's it. So ultimately, to make a final conclusion on this, this particular figure illustrates the implementation of DFG model for implementing these requirements. What requirements? The requirement above, computational requirement A plus B and Y equal to X minus C, and DFG model translates as a single sequential process execution, right? It is very easy for us to translate this model into a sequential process of execution by using a C programming or C++ programming, right? So this is all about a first computational model in embedded system, that is DFG. So we'll stop our session here, and we will look into the next model, that is control data flow diagram or control data flow graph. So here we have not specified any condition. Here the execution is conditionless. I consider A, I consider B, then I perform the addition, and then once again the third input is there, I go for subtraction. Is there any condition? You need to check if A plus B is greater than, when you add A and B, if it is greater than some value, then only you go for the subtraction. Is there any such type of conditional execution? Definitely it is not there. Now we will see if there is any such conditional based execution, then how the DFG can be remodeled or reshaped into a control data flow graph. Okay, so this part will take it in a next class. If you have any doubts, we'll take up the doubts. I'll come to chat room. Yes, any doubts in today's class? Any doubts? No doubts? Tell your friends, ask your friends to attend the class. See, the strength is reducing day by day. Okay. Okay, then directly we'll meet on Monday. Probably another 2 1 hour or another 2 hours is required to complete this unit by next week, probably from Monday to Friday. We'll complete this chapter. So we left with the last unit only. That to the first topic is with respect to RTOS. Majority of the concepts already covered in the operating system. Okay, but, probably that will be very easy for me to cover in a much faster, right? So anyways, July 7th is your last working day. We have another fantastic 1 month of time. No issues. We'll cover 100% portion. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Else, we'll leave the meet. Okay.